Hey guys, today we are going to make our French lentil ragout. So I just finished doing a video under Ingredients Matter on what French lentils are and why we use them. So if you want to skip over there and take a look before you make this, it is important for this dish that we do use French lentils because they will hold together better than a regular green lentil. So I'm just going to go over to my pan here. I've already got a few things started. So I have my onions, carrots, and celery cooking in the pan here. And I'm just sweating them again. We're not roasting. I have a little bit of canola oil. And you can see how nice and translucent those onions are. So at this point, I am going to add just some garlic. Just a couple of cloves of garlic minced up. Now, I love to cook with garlic, so I always have minced garlic in the fridge ready to go. And next time I do some, we'll do a quick video on that as well, just on how to do it in your food processor so it's not too fine. And it's so great and handy to have, especially if you love lots of garlic like I do. So back to our pot here. I have my garlic in here now. I just want to cook this for 1 or 2 minutes. I'm not trying to burn the garlic. I just want to soften the garlic up, start bringing out its flavors. Just to note at this point as well, when I was sweating the vegetables, I did add some salt and pepper. Again, I probably go through this through a lot of the recipes. We're starting to layer those flavors, and it's important to start seasoning right at the very beginning. So while that's just finishing up, I'm going to turn your attention to our lentils. So I have a pound of lentils here that I have soaked in boiling water. So I just had them in the bowl, poured some boiling water over top, and I let them sit for about 15-20 minutes. Then I've strained them off, and that just helps soften up the outer shell, reduces the cooking time a little bit. So I'm going to add these into my pot now. Make sure we get all of those there. The next thing I want to add is 3 cups of water, like so. Now I am using water, again, because it kind of adds a little bit of versatility to the recipe. We'll talk about that in a real quick sec. Once I've got my water in here, I'm going to add a little bit of a thyme bouquet. And basically, I have just taken the thyme and I have tied it up with a little bit of butcher's twine. I'm going to put it in my pot like so. And then I've left the string long enough that I can just tie it on the outside like so. And then when I'm finished cooking, it's easy just to pull out. Just going to make sure all my goodies are down in the pot here. I'm going to turn up the heat. And I want to bring this up to a simmer. Then we're going to cover it. So while that's coming up to a simmer, I'll just briefly do a little talk about this dish. I think this is a perfect dish for a home cook. It's easy to make, as you can see here. There's not a lot of ingredients to it. It freezes really well, which is really nice. So you can make a bigger batch, throw it in the freezer. We always had some kicking around in the freezer at the restaurant, because one of the great things about this is if you leave out any stock, you have a vegan side dish or something that you can turn into a vegan entree. So it was always nice to have that in the freezer. The other thing I think that's great about this for the home cook is just the overall versatility of this dish itself, because you can serve it as is, as a side. Tonight I'm serving this with some of our maple brined pork loin. But you can also add things to it. So I'm going to use a little bit tonight. I'm going to package some, freeze it off. I can pull it out, and then I can saute up some mushrooms, throw this on top of the mushrooms, reheat it. I got a great little side dish for chicken. During the winter, we get a lot of the kales, the collards that we braise off, and I tend to freeze those. I can take a package of those out, chop it up, throw it in with these, warm it up, and I've got another side dish. Again, in the fall with the squash, butternut squash roasted, diced up, and then thrown in this at the end. So you've got so many different things you can do with just one dish. Another thing we used to do, and we used to sell this to Helmer's potato up in Pemberton, we would use this as a base for a vegetarian cottage pie. We'd have mushrooms, we'd have leeks, and all that kind of good stuff in it. So this is coming up to a simmer now. I am going to pop my lid on. I'm going to turn it down. I'm going to cook this for about 30 to 40 minutes. Then we'll come back, we'll check it, we'll make sure they're cooked, and then we'll finish the dish off. Okay, guys, so we're back. Our lentils have been covered and cooking for about 35 minutes now. So we're going to open them up, give them a taste, see how they're coming along. So you can see now most of the liquid has evaporated or been soaked in by the lentils. I'm going to take my handy dandy tasting spoon, just see what the texture of the lentils is like. So I'm liking where they're at. They're not hard, like they're not like an uncooked bite to them, but they're not mushy, so they're nice and perfect. So what I want to do at this point, a lot of people don't like lentils because they find them maybe a little too earthy. So what we add at the end here, a little bit of red wine vinegar and some tomato paste, like so. Then we'll just give that one last stir. Now what the tomato paste and the vinegar adds a little bit of acidity that kind of cuts through that richness, that earthiness of the lentils, and kind of balances things out a little bit more. So you can see there's still a little bit of liquid in here, which is what I want, because when I use this later on, if I want to add things, there's a little bit of liquid already in to help me heat it up. And we'll do some of those videos later on, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, I'm going to give it one last seasoning, like so. It's perfect. I'm going to leave it like it is. If I was going to serve this straight out of the pot, I would probably add a little bit more salt to it. But because I'm going to freeze some of this and use it in some other dishes, I don't want to get too aggressive with the seasoning now. I can finish off the seasoning a little bit. You know, if I saute the mushrooms like we talked about earlier and add this, I can add some more salt and pepper then. So now all we want to do is cool this down. So I'm going to grab my thyme bouquet. You can see how it's so easy to take out of here. And cut that off and let it go in the compost. And then I just want to put it into something that's going to spread it out a little bit. So I have this little glass Pyrex dish here. And I'm just going to put that, scoop it all in here. And when it scoops out like this, and there's a lot of surface area like we're getting with this dish, it's going to help it cool down a lot quicker. And then I also have it sit in on top of a little cooling rack. And that way it doesn't, you know, the heat doesn't screw up my countertops and get Shannon all mad at me. Got to keep all my bases covered here. We'll just dump the rest of this in. Oh man, this smells so good. Just like so. And then what I'll do when it stays on the counter is I'll keep my my spoon close by, and then every few minutes, or not every few minutes, maybe every 10 minutes or so, I'll come over, give it a stir, just so that it helps that cool it down faster just by getting more cold air in there. Now this is good to go. So once this is completely cooled down, you can keep it in the fridge. And again, it's one of these beautiful dishes that's going to sit for a few days, and the flavors are going to get so much better. Or you can put it into little containers, label it with those labels I keep talking about, throw it in the freezer, and you've got, you know, a side dish ready for weeks down the road. For one of those nights when life's just too busy and you need something really quick. So I hope you guys give this a try. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. And remember, you want to get the French lentils for this recipe.